So here's one of the things that I want to talk to you about. I don't know if you're anything like me, but maybe perhaps some point in your life or some point in your daily business or in your career, you've gotten to the place where you felt stuck. I mean, you just felt as if you just couldn't get to the next level, or you felt as if things weren't moving in the direction that you wanted them to, or you just felt as if you just couldn't make things happen. And so I believe that all of us, at one point or another, we get to a place in our lives where we feel stuck. And so there, of course, naturally, you can be stuck in a toxic relationship. You can feel stuck when it comes to your goals and your dreams and your vision, and you feel as if you're just not clear on what your vision is, or maybe perhaps you're just not able to make it happen. You've been putting in the time, you've been putting in the effort, but you feel as if you're spinning your wheels. And let me tell you something. That could be a very frustrating feeling. Yeah, when you have gotten to that place where you're feeling stuck, you begin to drift. You start feeling heavy. You start feeling a little disappointed. You can even slip into a state of depression. And I don't know if you've ever been there, but that's one of those things that you just, sometimes when you get there, you're just wondering and you're saying to yourself, how can I snap out of this? How can I turn this situation around? And so whether you've ever been there or not, I just want to share a couple of things with you that I believe will help you if you are feeling stuck right now, or if you ever get to that place in which you begin to feel stuck. And so one of the things that I would tell you is the key, the very first step to getting unstuck is, I believe you have to acknowledge the very fact that you're stuck. And you say, well, Andy, what do you mean by that? Here's what I realized from the different people that have an opportunity to coach, and those individuals that I've had an opportunity to listen to their challenges. And oftentimes when people are telling me things, I can see from the outside that they're stuck. I can see and I can realize that in many ways that they're spinning their wheels. But unfortunately, they're not even aware of the fact that they're stuck. And so perhaps one of the most tragic things, and one of the things that will waste more time than ever, is when you find yourself in one of those situations in which you're stuck, but you're not even aware of the fact that you're stuck. And so you're going through the motion on a daily basis, and there's not any true progress that's going on in your life, whether it's in your relationship, whether it's in your finances, or whether it's in your business. And yet and still you continue to put in the time, the effort, the energy, and you're exuding a lot of energy and effort, and you're quote unquote staying busy, but you're not doing anything. You're not producing any fruit. You're not actually showing any type of results. And the reason why is because you're not even aware of the fact that you're actually stuck. And most of us who are stuck, oftentimes when we're stuck in a story. And so you say, Andy, well, what do you mean by that? There's a story that we've created in ourselves. So we've created a story that the reason why I'm not producing what I want to produce is because if I were to get to that level anyway, that it would be too difficult. Or if I were to get to that level anyway, it's only people who are greedy that have to make that kind of income. Or, something happened to me 5 years ago, 3 years ago, and that's the reason why I chose not to try to start a business again. That's the reason why I'm not going to go ahead and enter another relationship again, because I've been hurt. But there's normally some type of story, some kind of backdrop that we've bought into that has caused us to be stuck, and we don't even realize it. And so that story is producing fruit in our lives, and oftentimes those fruit are not edible. Those are the things that oftentimes have us stuck. As a matter of fact, one of the people who's known for making her mark in history is a woman by the name of Harriet Tubman. And during the time in which people were unfortunately subjected to slavery, and many of those individuals were trying to find a way to get to freedom, Harriet Tubman, along with a couple of very radical individuals, started something called the Underground Railroad. And so what they were doing is they came up with very smart, strategic plan to help many of the slaves that were enslaved at the moment to find a route to get them to a place in which now there was freedom. And one of the things that she said at the end of her journey, she had been interviewed, and they were giving her so much praise for all the slaves that she had freed. And they said, Harriet, you did such an amazing job. I mean, you did something that was extremely radical. I mean, it was so strategic. You had people that were hiding the slaves in their basements, and you had trails that was marked out, and you found ways to hide people, and you were able to transport and free so many slaves without using violence and without them necessarily getting hurt. And she was listening, and she said, thank you, thank you. And one of the things she said was this. She said, I would have freed 1,000 more had they known they were slaves. And I want you to think about that. She said, I would have freed 1,000 more had they known they were slaves. And so I believe that there are many people right now that could get to the next level in their lives, that can produce greater results, that could take their business to the next level, that could have a more fulfilling marriage, that could finally lose that weight that they've been wanting to lose once and once for all, that could finally step into their calling and find their purpose in life. But unfortunately, they're not even aware of the fact that they are stuck. They're just not aware of it. And that's what Harriet Tubman was trying to get a point. She was trying to say that many of the slaves did not even seek out freedom because they didn't have the level of consciousness, the knowledge to realize that they were a slave, that there was actually such thing as freedom. And many of us, unfortunately, remain in a place where we're more or less stuck, but we're not even aware of it because we've bought into some type of story, and we're so convinced about the story that we've told ourselves that we're willing to accept whatever the circumstances are, or whatever the fruit is, or whatever it is that we've created in our lives as a result of that story. And so what I want you to first do is to be very honest with yourself right now and look at your personal life, and look at your finances, and look at your business, and look at your health, and look at your relationships, and ask yourself, is there any place along any of those areas that I may in fact be stuck, that I've bought into a story and I'm not even aware of it? And I've so bought into it, and I've been saying that same story over and over and over again as to why I've chosen not to enter another relationship. The same story as to over and over again as to why I chose not to start a business. The same story as to over and over again as to why I'm staying at this job in which I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. The same story as to over and over again as why I've resulted to just holding on to this weight that I know that I've been wanting to lose. The same story that I've been holding on to over and over and over again. And what I'm saying to you is, in order for you to get unstuck, you have to first acknowledge the fact that maybe perhaps that I've created this situation for myself. Maybe perhaps I'm not even aware of the fact that I'm a slave. Maybe perhaps I'm not even aware of the fact that I'm stuck right now. And so I want you to think about that. Is there a place in your life that you just may in fact be stuck? And it's Les Brown that said, you can't see the picture when you're in the frame. Sometimes you've got to step outside of your situation and look back and be able to assess it and say, wait a second here, there's no growth. Wait a second here, I'm not producing any results. So there is a strong possibility that I'm stuck. And so once you've acknowledged the fact that you're stuck, I believe that the next step, in order for you to get unstuck, the next step is that you have to identify what it is that you're focused on. And so those individuals that at least have the level of consciousness to know that they're stuck, I find that oftentimes when we do become stuck, the reason why is it has oftentimes to do with what it is that we're focused on. Because here's what we tend to do. When we get to the place in which we feel stuck, we're often focused on all the things that we don't want. And so right now, somebody's feeling stuck and they're focused on all the negative aspects of their relationship. They're focused on all the negative aspects of their finances. They're focused on all the things that they don't like at the job, or all the things that they don't like about their spouse, or all the things that they don't like about their life. And so what happens is, unfortunately, what they don't realize is whatever you focus on the longest becomes the strongest. What they don't realize is whatever you focus on expands. And so if you're focusing and putting all your time, your energy, your effort on all the things that you don't want in your life, all the things that you don't want in your business, all the things that you don't want around your finances, then unfortunately, that's what tends to expand in our lives. And so this is one of those things that it's so easy to see in somebody else's life, but it's not always easy to see in your own. And so I just think about this one guy. I wouldn't say that he's my mentee, but in many ways, I guess you could say indirectly, I've been somewhat of a mentor to him. Not as a hired coach, but just because of the fact that he's always been a couple years behind me and following sort of the same kind of path. And this young man, like me, went to Florida State, and this young man also was able to land a job with a very, very large firm. And I remember when he first landed that job, he had probably been working with them for about a year or two. And I remember running into him and us having a conversation. And I asked him, I said, how's everything going? And I remember the conversation just feeling so heavy, because you could literally feel his pain. I mean, it's one thing for someone to tell you what they're feeling. It's another thing when you can feel the burden. And he was explaining to me that even though that he thought that this working for this company was going to create a certain level of satisfaction, even though he thought it was going to be one thing, he discovered that it wasn't what he thought it would be. And so he was having a lot of internal turmoil because this particular firm was demanding a lot of his time, a lot of his effort, a lot of his energy. He was working ridiculous hours, sometimes leaving the house at 6:30 in the morning and getting home at 11 o'clock p.m. at night. And I could hear the frustration. And every single time we managed to have a conversation over the course of me seeing him in that year, our conversation and the focus of the conversation, whenever he had an opportunity to speak, was telling me all the things that he was unhappy with at that particular firm, all the things he was unhappy with about that situation. But here's one of the craziest things that I observed, that it would be a year later. It's like clockwork. I'll run into him at least once or twice a year. And it's like clockwork. When we run into each other, we'll have the same conversation. It's like deja vu. And we'll go through the exact same feelings, the exact same emotions. And once again, the focus in the conversation is around all the things that he doesn't necessarily care for at the particular firm. But here's what I need you to understand. Whatever you focus on the longest becomes the strongest. Whatever you focus on expands. And because of the fact that his focus, unfortunately, was always on the things that he didn't want, because of the fact that his focus was always on the limitations that was happening there at that career, because of the fact his focus was not on what was going to be next for him, the conversation that we had was never talking about what he wanted to do, what he intended to do, what the next step was, but rather was on all the things that he didn't want and all the things that was frustrating him at the moment. Guess what happened? Year after year, I'd run into him and it'd be the exact same scenario. He was still stuck with that same firm that he's feeling so frustrated and so unhappy about. And so what I realize is this. You see, nothing will change for him until his focus becomes more on what it is that he wants. You see, nothing really changes until his focus is going to be on what it is that he's looking to create. You see, I don't know if you've ever been around somebody who's been talking to you about something that they're looking to create. But what happens is oftentimes anything that you're going to create in your life is going to first start off as a conversation. It's going to first start off as something that you're talking to a friend, a family member about. It's going to start off as a vision. It's going to start off as a dream, something that you're planning to do. And what I'm saying to you is, if you listen to somebody who's talking about all the things that they want to do enough, trust me, it's only a matter of time before next time you see them, they're actually doing it. Because that's where their focus is. And you see, wherever your focus is, that's what expands. And so when you're trying to get unstuck, you have to do something that is very difficult. And I'm going to be honest with you, it's difficult. But you've got to find a way to shift your focus from all the things that you don't want. You got to find a way to shift your focus from the obstacles. You got to find a way to shift your focus from all the things that have you frustrated, and to shift your focus to what it is that you do want. In other words, what are you looking to create right now? All right, you don't like your career right now, but what's the career that you do want? What does that look like? And so you're feeling stuck in your business. Well, if you were unstuck, what would you want to do in your business? What would that look like? And so the question is, when you're looking to get unstuck, the question is not what is it that has me stuck at the moment, but the question is, what do I need to do to get unstuck? That's where the focus needs to be. And so what are you focusing on right now? What is it that has you stuck? I mean, is your focus on maybe perhaps a transaction or a deal that didn't go well? Is your focus on the fact that the last 10 people that you spoke to told you no? Is your focus on the fact that 2, 3, 5, 6 years ago you attempted to do something and it didn't work out? Is your focus on the fact that 2 years ago you gave your heart to somebody and they completely broke it in pieces? And so where is your focus? And I can trust me on this. If your focus is on all the things that you do not want, you will have more of that in your life. It's a universal principle. Let me tell you something. I know. I know that sometimes it could be a little frustrating. And I can tell you something else too. I know that sometimes this is easier said than done. Yeah, because you can get so frustrated. You could have conditioned yourself so much to focus on all those things that you don't want, to repeat that story in your mind over and over and over and over again, that you end up losing sight on the very thing that you want. And so what I'm telling you is, unless your goal and your intention is to remain stuck, then at some point you've got to be willing to shift your focus from all the things that you don't want and change your focus now to what it is that you actually do want. And so the question is, what do you really need to focus on? Because whatever it is that you focus on expands. And that's why, I tell people this all the time when we're having a conversation, that the moment life hits you with something, and you begin to retreat, and you begin to enter like a survival mode, and you start going to like a scarcity mindset, like I don't know if I can do this, I don't know if this is going to work out. Then what happens is, when you get into that kind of a state, unfortunately opportunities don't come your way, unfortunately you can't expand, unfortunately you can't move forward. And so what happens is, the only way that you can snap out of that, the only way that you can get unstuck, is you've got to fight the urge to just focus on the limitations. You got to fight the urge to just focus on the excuses. You got to fight the urge to just focus on all the things that haven't worked out. And you got to find a way mentally to shift your focus to what it is that you're looking to create. You've got to find a way to shift your focus to what it is that you actually want. And so if you're really looking to get unstuck, I mean, you're sick and tired of being sick and tired. You're sick of having the same conversation over and over and over again as to why your business is not taking off, as to why your relationship is not working out, as to why your health is not where you want it to be. If you're really, really looking to get unstuck, then change your focus. And start focusing and putting some time, some effort, the energy, the same effort, the same energy you are putting into the excuses, the same effort, the same energy you are putting into that same story, the same effort, the same energy you've been putting into your limited circumstances. Put that effort, put that energy into that thing that you're looking to create. And so it creates a complete shift. It's a game changer. And let me tell you something. The third step to getting unstuck is that you've got to do something. And so somebody says, Andy, you don't understand. There's nothing I can do. What I'm trying to get you to understand is that's a lie. There's always something that you can do. There's something that you can do. You haven't thought of it yet. But there's something that you can do. You know, it's John Wooden. He's one of those, Hall of Fame coaches, one of the best coaches of all time. Here's what he said. He said, don't allow what you cannot do to interfere with what you can do. And so oftentimes what happens is, because of the fact that there's a couple of things that we can't do, we're so fixated on that thing that we cannot do that we forget that there's so many other things that we can do. And so probably one of the best examples of this, I remember that there are times when I was really investing quite a bit in real estate, and I had a crew, and these guys were responsible, of course, whenever I was buying the homes. And of course, these homes were in really bad condition. Oftentimes they really need to be completely remodeled. I mean, we would go in there and, completely redo the floors and redo the electric and put in central AC and change out the kitchens and everything. And I remember a couple times, I would set up an appointment with my crew for them to meet me at a particular property. And then something would happen where we set an appointment, or maybe I was supposed to meet them up at 8 o'clock or 8 o'clock in the morning. And then something came up. I had a meeting in the morning. And then so I sent them a message and said, hey, look, I know I'm supposed to be there at 8, but I won't get there until 9:30. They text me back, no problem, see you at 9:30. And then this is what blew me away every single time. I would get there at 9:30, right? Expecting that there was some work done. And so I'd get there at 9:30 and I'd look around. I was like, well, nothing really got done. And so I'm asking these guys, well, I don't understand. You guys been here. What time did you guys get here? And they said, well, we got here at 8 o'clock. I said, well, I know that, I text you and I said I wouldn't get here till 9:30. You've been here for an hour and a half. You guys haven't done anything. And they would say, well, the reason why we haven't done anything is because we're supposed to go with you to Home Depot to buy the materials. Because what we're going to be working on today is we're working on the floors, or we're working on the kitchen. And so what would blow me away is I said, well, wait a second, I don't get this. You sat here for an hour and a half and you paced around and did nothing because you were waiting on me because you needed the materials to do something. But let me ask you a question. What about all these other things that you could have been doing? We're going to lay some tile down, but obviously you can't put the tile down on the floors that are here right now. So couldn't you take the floors up? We're going to install some new kitchen cabinets. We have to go buy the kitchen cabinets, but couldn't you remove the kitchen cabinets that are there right now? So help me to understand what's going on. And so what happened is oftentimes they were so fixated on what they couldn't do that they lost sight of all the things that they could do. And so what I'm saying to you is this, that there's a strong possibility right now that you've been so fixated on all the things that you couldn't do at the moment. And so you've been saying to yourself, well, listen, I can't grow my business because I haven't been able to do this. I wasn't able to secure the loan. I haven't been able to close that large client. Or you know what? I can't lose this weight right now because of the fact that I don't have a gym membership. or whatever it is, something silly, something absurd that you've convinced yourself that you can't move forward, you can't make this thing happen because you're missing this one element, because of the fact that you can't act, because of the fact that you can't do something. But what I'm saying to you is there's always something that you can do. There's always something you can do. And so I can tell you, it's been so many instances where I've spoken to somebody who is currently working a job. They have a career and they want to start a business. And so we end up having a dialogue and conversation about the type of business that they want to start. And so throughout the conversation, they'll tell me what it is that they want to do. And then we'll come to the realization that they haven't done anything. And then so typically what happens is I'll ask them, well, why haven't you done anything? And they'll say, because, well, I'm still working my job. And so in order for me to do that, then I feel like I got to quit my job and do it full time. But that's just a story. Because nobody said that they couldn't do all the other things, like prepare themselves for the business, like put a business plan together. They couldn't do some research. They couldn't find a mentor. They couldn't intern. They couldn't find some strategies, some techniques, go to some workshops, go to some seminars on the weekends and so forth. So there are so many things that they can do. But they're so fixated on some big aspect of what it is that their business is going to require that they can't currently do at the moment because they're employed, that they've lost sight of all the things that they can do. And you see, that'll keep you stuck. And so what I'm saying to you right now is there's a strong possibility that there's something that you could do right now that'll allow you to continue to move forward towards your goals and your dreams. There's something that you can do right now that's going to allow you to start turning your financial situation around. There's something that you can do right now that's going to put you in alignment and allow for you to get a new career. There's something that you can do right now to take your business to the next level. There's something that you can do, but the thing is, you've got to find it. Don't focus on all the things that you cannot do. No, John Wooden said, listen, he said, here's what he said. He says, don't allow what you cannot do to interfere with what you can do. And so, yes, we understand that there may be some things that you cannot do at the moment, because maybe it's not the time for that step yet. Or maybe perhaps you don't have the resources. Or maybe perhaps you're still waiting on something. But what I'm saying is, in the process of waiting, identify what it is that you can do and begin to do it. Because nothing allows you to get unstuck better than when you begin to take some type of action. And so what's that action step going to be for you? What is it that you've got to do? Do you have to make a phone call? Do you need to just set up a Facebook page? Do you need to start creating a plan? Do you need to start writing an outline? What is it that you got to do? But there's something that you can do right now that's going to allow you to start getting unstuck. And so if you're anything like me, at some point or another, you get to a place in which you're starting to feel like, wait a second here, I'm starting to feel a little stuck. And all I'm saying to you is, when you get to that place, number one, acknowledge the fact that you may be stuck. Harriet Tubman said, I would have freed 1,000 more slaves had they known they were slaves. Do you know how many people are stuck in a story, stuck in their mess, stuck in their excuses, stuck in their disappointments, stuck in their past, and they don't even realize it? It's the same story. It's playing over and over in their head. They're not producing any fruit. They're not moving forward in their lives. They're not trying to get to the next level. They're not growing. And so they're stuck. And so first thing you've got to do is you've got to acknowledge it. Now that you've acknowledged it, you've got to say, wait a second, where's my focus? Where's my focus? I need to be careful here. Am I focusing on all the things that I do not want? Am I focusing on the fact that somebody told me no? Am I focusing on the fact that my last business engagement or my last meeting didn't go too well? Am I focused on the fact that the last 5 applications that I turned in, they got rejected? Am I focused on the fact that I lost one of my biggest clients? Am I focused on the fact that there are some people that told me that they were going to support me that are no longer supporting me? What do you focus on? Remember, whatever you focus on the longest becomes the strongest. Whatever it is that you focus on expands. And so you've got to shift your focus to what it is that you're looking to create. And so if you begin to focus on what you're looking to create, that expands. If you begin to focus on your vision, that expands. If you begin to focus on what it is that you want to happen, that begins to expand. And so shift your focus. And now that you've shifted your focus, it's great, but you can't stop there. Now you've got to say to yourself, what's something that I can do? What's an action step? What's something that I can actually do? And don't allow yourself to convince yourself, wait a second, there's nothing I can do there. No. No, John Wooden said, don't allow what you cannot do to interfere with what you can do. There's always something you can do. And so you've got to find it. And trust me on this, you'll get unstuck. Yeah. It's your time. It's your moment to get to the next level, to create a shift, to move out of this holding pattern and to get to that next place in your life. You just got to go through this process. Acknowledge it. Shift your focus. And then do something. This has been Andy Henriquez reminding you to always show up for your life. Because if you don't, ladies and gentlemen, no one else will.
Yes, yes.